July the 18th, 1900, and a letter to his friend Morozov. Sergei says, "Tomorrow I'm going to Russia and nowhere else. My life here has bored me to distraction and it's impossible to work, even if only because of the terrible heat. I am writing you this just to let you know the address where I will spend the rest of the summer and where I'll be waiting for your letter with a description of the exhibition. I'm delighted to depart from here and I have a great desire to work hard upon my arrival home." In these letters, one finds the last reference to his close friend, Sarkanovsky. Sarkanovsky remained his admirer, but Rachmaninoff ceased to be his boon companion. Under Dahl's influence, Rachmaninoff stopped drinking, and for the rest of his life scarcely ever touched alcohol. During the years of 1907 to 1912, Yuri Sarkovsky, as a critic on the Russian Slave, a Moscow daily, wrote favourable articles on Rachmaninoff and unfavourable ones on Scriabin, whom he didn't like. Yet when, in 1929, Rachmaninoff was told of Sarkanovsky's death, he showed no emotion. On his return to Russia, Sergei wrote the last two movements of his future second piano concerto. Incidentally, Sabaneyev, who had known both Rachmaninoff and Morozov, told me that the second theme in the last movement came from Nikita Morozov himself. Sergei heard this melody, which Morozov composed, and remarked, "Oh, that is a melody I should have composed." Morozov, who worshipped his friend, said calmly, "Well, why don't you take it?" On December the 2nd, 1900, at a benefit performance organised by the Committee for the Alleviation of the Suffering of Prisoners and given at the Moscow Nobility Hall, Princess Levin and Sergei's aunt, Madame Satin, were members of the committee. Sergei played the last two movements of his concerto, with Siloti conducting the orchestra. Encouraged by this first success since his unfortunate symphony, Sergei completed the concerto by adding the first movement and played the concerto in its entirety the following year on October the 27th, 1901, at the Moscow Philharmonic concert. This was the first performance of one of the most popular compositions in piano literature. But 5 days before its performance, Sergei was brooding over its qualities. "You are right," he wrote to Morozov. "I've just been playing the first movement of my concerto, and only now it becomes clear to me that the transition from the first theme to the second is not good. It stands now. The first theme is not the first theme, but an introduction, and that no fool will believe when I begin to play the second theme, that is the beginning of the concerto. I feel that the whole first movement is spoilt, and from this minute on it's repulsive to me. I'm simply in despair. And why did you start with this analysis of yours 5 days before the performance of the concerto?" Even without Rachmaninoff's comments, any musician can see that his concerto was not a concerto written to strict sonata form, nor did Rachmaninoff follow the modernists, but went back to the old Lisztian conception of a bravura performance with all the material for virtuoso display. Rachmaninoff's concerto, though excellently put together, is a series of romantic songs, and its popularity has remained. On March the 28th, 1902, the concerto was played in St. Petersburg by Siloti, with Arthur Nikisch conducting it. It had a tremendous success and was repeated by the same artists in Leipzig at the Goethe House. At the same time, Sergei composed one opus after another, including his cello sonata, probably his best work, next to the concerto. His works gained in popularity, and the finest Russian artists chose his compositions for their repertory. Ever since Sergei had left Sperov's pensionnat at the age of 16, the Satins' home had been his own. There, against the background of his success and failure, a friendship with his two girl cousins blossomed. No one offered him so much care and understanding, or stood by him so staunchly in his darkest hours of depression. Now he decided to tie this friendship of 13 years by an even closer bond. On April the 29th, 1902, Sergei took the final step towards a new life. He married his first cousin, Natalie Satin, who had graduated as a pianist from the Moscow Conservatory. The announcement of his engagement had the effect of a bombshell in Moscow. There were all kinds of difficulties to overcome, particularly those which were created by the church. Rachmaninoff was not a churchgoer, and since there was no record of his confession, no priest was willing to marry him. Sergei stubbornly refused to go to confession. He looked almost hopeless, but fortunately one of his aunts took matters into her own hands, as she was on good terms with Father Ampetriov, the priest at the Archangeli Cathedral, and she promised to arrange everything if only Sergei would call on the priest. Against his will, and only out of respect for his aunt, Sergei went to see Father Ampetriov. He returned very happy. "If I had known what kind of man he was, I would have gone without hesitation," he said in the family circle. However, there was one more barrier to be overcome. Since he was marrying his first cousin, he had to have the permission of the Tsar. This was usually got around by timing the sending of the petition and the announcement of the marriage at the same moment. The Rachmaninoffs were married on April the 29th, 1902, at one of the army chapels in the suburb of Moscow, with Siloti and Anatoly Brandakov, the cellist, as their best men.